Welcome to the virtual Malvern Festival Innovation. Thank you for joining us. And today I'm really pleased to welcome Emma Jones, MBE, founder of Enterprise Nation. Emma, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to see you again.
Thank you for having me.
So you obviously visited the real Festival Innovation, the physical one, a few years ago, which was also great. And you told us some of the case studies and some of the things you were doing in Enterprise Nation then. But obviously it was only a limited audience. So the great thing about this is this can go out farther and wider. So first of all, I thought it'd be good just to hear a little bit about the story of Enterprise Nation, why you founded it and how it's grown over the years.
As you say, the beauty of technology means we can reach even more people. And I know technology will probably be a little bit of a focus for this discussion. So yes, Adrian, I started Enterprise Nation 20 years ago. How on earth time flies. And the reason I started the business is because I had started, built and then sold a first company, which I'd started at the height of the dot-com boom. So I started a business called techlicate.com. Its purpose was to put the inward investment process online. And I started that with a co-founder, and 18 months into the business, we had an acquisition approach. So it was a wonderful kind of successful exit story. It was all very rapid. I learned lots of things. But the experience of starting, growing and then selling a business, and I was doing it from a home base. So I had set up the business from a spare room in Manchester, which is where I was living at the time. The experience of doing that made me think, I think a lot of other people are going to start businesses, and wouldn't it be great if they had access to support on how to do it? So the idea for Enterprise Nation came from my 18-month lock-in clause. So the company that acquired us, we were acquired. They said, we would like you to stay in the business for 18 months. And through that time, I did lots of reading, lots of looking at what was happening in the market. And I thought, well, actually, I think lots more people will start businesses. Can I help them get the surround support they need? And Enterprise Nation was born as a result. And maybe we'll kind of talk about this too. But when I started Enterprise Nation, I started it, and I hate this term, but it was what it was, as a lifestyle business. So I first of all started, it was me just on my own for a good couple of years, and I was just consulting. So I was helping regional development agencies, as they were called at the time, on how they built entrepreneurial economies. I earned a great wage, because if you're just earning as a consultant yourself, it's kind of a really nice margin. So I did that. Then got involved with a campaign called Startup Britain, so slightly stepped out of the business for 3 years. But essentially, that's a long way round of saying I probably only started to scale Enterprise Nation in about 2016, 2017. So at that point, I took on angel investment at the end of 2017. And then pretty much we've been growing ever since. So we've kind of grown to a size where we've now got a team of 48 people. This year we're on track to support 1 million small businesses who will come on to enterprisenation.com. We now operate in the UK and Ireland, and we've got kind of lots of growth plans to go. So a long company history, but only a section of that where I actually said, right, let's go for growth.
Yeah, no, well done. And I mean, a little bit about Enterprise Nation. It's a kind of a membership model partly, but also you host events and have resources. So what is the sort of thing that SMEs, startups want and need, and what do you help them with?
Well, they need lots at the moment. So, small businesses, bless them, have weathered the storms. In fact, probably since I've seen you, the number of things that they've had to keep on trading through has been incredible. But I guess when we do look at, and as you say, first and foremost, we're a platform business now. So lots of our evidence comes from the platform. So because we have lots of businesses coming onto the platform, we can see what they're searching for, challenges, opportunities, etc. So we kind of take that data and evidence, to which we add with, as you say, we do lots of in-person events where we more on a qualitative basis kind of hear from small businesses what they're feeling. And I guess kind of it always comes down to kind of probably 3 key things that we hear small businesses want support on. How do they grow their business through sales? So how do they get access to contracts in the UK? How do they start selling overseas? So how do they start exporting? Access to money, which in my mind is kind of twofold. It's how do you get paid on time? So how do you get the money you're actually owed from delivering contracts, as well as potentially thinking of raising startup or kind of scale funding? Access to digital technologies is huge, has been since lockdown, and that's everything from small businesses saying, how do I embrace cloud accounting? Do I adopt a CRM system? How can I use technology to become more efficient? How do I figure out what's going on with AI at the moment? So they're the kind of key things that small businesses kind of come to us wanting to know. How do I increase my revenue whilst managing my costs? And how do I use digital technology to operate most efficiently? So essentially, they're kind of our core areas in which we help. And in fact, it's kind of where we have lots of content. So yeah, they're the kind of key things that have been quite pressing on the mind of small businesses for the past couple of years.
Yeah, and you touched a bit on technology, and obviously we're the Festival of Innovation, so we're always keen to understand how technology is influencing, particularly business, but life. But also, it's not just technology; it's different processes and things as well that help. So, I mean, you mentioned some of the technologies there, but how easy is it, do you think, for like the SMEs and the startups to access some of this stuff that they need, and particularly the advanced stuff to compete well against others?
Well, it's interesting. I think it's very easy to access. What's harder is then implementing it in your business.
Yeah.
So, and in fact, again, based on everything that we can see that small businesses are doing on the platform, and you may remember this, Adrian, government had launched a program called Help to Grow Digital, which was looking to enable small businesses to both adopt and then implement digital technologies in their business. Anyway, Help to Grow Digital was closed because it didn't get too much traction with small businesses. And so it was the Conservative government at the time. We approached the then minister, who was called Paul Scully, and we said to him, look, we really appreciate the intention of what you were trying to do with Help to Grow Digital. Can we deliver a private sector version? So we launched something called Tech Hub. We had, and this is a really important kind of factor for us, is everything we do when it comes to support for small businesses, we always look to say, how can we have the best of government and industry working together to provide SME solutions? So how can you get public-private partnerships? So Tech Hub was funded by Google, Cisco, Sage and Vodafone, endorsed by government because they said, again, we know that we want to encourage small businesses to adopt digital technologies. And what Tech Hub was designed to do was to offer a brief diagnostic to help small businesses understand the bit of digital that they needed to adopt, then hopefully offer access to kind of incentives and offers on the tools themselves. So how can you help businesses understand what they need? How can you make it cost effective for them to buy it? And then the critical final element, how do you connect a business owner to a digital advisor who can then help them embed that technology in the business? So as I say, kind of, if you look at the learnings we have, small businesses know that they need digital technology. Every business owner is aware of that. What can be difficult to fathom? What do I need? Who do I trust? And how much can I be expected to pay? So Tech Hub went live in late 2023. It's still going strong. And yeah, you can see lots of benefits of small businesses when they do adopt these tools. Excuse me. The great thing and the satisfaction that comes from a small business saying, well, actually, it has enabled me to sell more, manage my money, keep my people happy, work more efficiently. So businesses can see the benefits. I think the conundrum is what they adopt and when and where they go for the help to do it. So hopefully that's where Enterprise Nation steps in to say, we can help you figure it out.
Yeah. And I think Enterprise Nation also sort of provides case studies. It has plenty of examples in its community of how things have worked, particularly with businesses growing or adopting technology. Have you got any examples that spring to mind of some companies that have done something right in your view?
Oh, well, loads.
Good.
And in fact, it's funny, actually, I'm reading a book at the moment called Brightside, which is how optimists in the world will win. And the reason I bought it is because somebody once said to me, no one ever dies in Enterprise Nation. And it's always been a really important thing for me for us to create a positive place for small businesses to come, because kind of back to those challenges that founders have experienced, we want to show the positive, uplifting stories of small businesses doing well. So yes, we cover lots of them. So I know lots who have kind of said, right, we've adopted tech and it's kind of really helped us. I mean, I guess to name a couple, we recently hosted our January event called the Startup Show. And I personally interviewed an incredible business called Suri, and they've invented a new sustainable toothbrush. Two pretty young co-founders. Anyway, in their first year, they did £10 million worth of sales. In their second year, they did £24 million worth of sales. Phenomenal business. And essentially, they're leveraging digital across their business. And by that, I mean they're using everything from selling on Amazon as a channel to market, through, of course, also just using digital for inventory management, making sure that their team knows kind of what they're working on. So you have that kind of example, through to one man and one woman bands who say, I had a lovely young business, a guy called Johnny Cotton, who runs a business called Break Bottle. And he came to speak for us at an event recently, and he is a one-man band. In fact, his business is still a side hustle. And he said, one of my questions to him was, to whom do you go for support? So kind of like, who's your board of advisors? Who gives you business advice? And he said, oh, AI does. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, I've used AI to form my own board of directors. And so he said, it's to AI that I turn. So it's everything from kind of solopreneurs saying, how do I use technology to guide me on my business, through to kind of growing businesses using it for much more practical and tactical purposes. Lots of good case studies.
That's good. And I like the idea that you're focusing on the good news stuff. I think the positives are really, really valuable. You mentioned like solopreneurs there, and also, you know, when we think about startups, obviously those are generally one or two co-founders that begin the journey. But in your kind of membership cohort, what do you see in terms of the growth, and how many of the companies are really growing, do you think, and therefore contributing to, you know, the UK's economy, and how many are really finding it a struggle to get beyond that one or two person or small business?
Well, I guess first of all, I'd say they're all contributing to the UK economy. And it goes back to why I don't like this definition of a lifestyle business, because I have huge respect for anyone who starts a business, regardless of the size that business becomes. However, I do think there's something interesting in the level of ambition that we probably should have as businesses in the UK at the moment. And so, you know, and Adrian, you know the statistics. Most businesses in the UK are SMEs. We make up like 99% of the full business population, of which most small businesses have less than 5 employees. Enterprise Nation, through its whole history, the businesses that we serve tend to be 0 to 10 employees. So we help businesses when they're young, when they're starting out. We help them grow to a certain stage. And in fact, we see it as a great point of success if they kind of outgrow Enterprise Nation, because they then hire in advisors, they kind of go on and mature. Of course, small businesses face lots of challenges in that journey. Again, we're hopefully there to help businesses get through it. But I think what's not helpful, and we've kind of already referred to this, is when you're a founder and you're running a business and every day you get up and you read the news that says Brexit means EU trade is on hold, national insurance hikes come in from April, retailers are saying that it's too difficult, hospitality operators are closing down. It doesn't create a great sense or an environment in which you feel that you can positively trade. So I guess there's kind of 2 layers, and we talk to government about this a lot. I think where we do need to improve as a country is to create better conditions for growth, which is purely to have a more positive environment. And in fact, we saw last week, a couple of weeks ago, the Chancellor has started to do that, you know, made a very positive speech around growth. We need to see that drumbeat continue. So you've kind of got the environmental aspects, and then you have the much more practical, tactical implementation of how do I operate a small business every day. And on that perspective, there is so much support available for small businesses. And if you think back to when I first started Enterprise Nation, it's a completely different landscape. There's just support available from central government, from local authorities. Huge private sector brands have very much stepped in to offer lots of different layers of support. So there's a lot of support available to help businesses figure out the things they need to figure out. But as I say, kind of above and beyond that, a founder needs the motivation to get back up every day and say, actually, why am I doing this? Is it worth doing it? And I think that's where the mood music can kind of really help.
No, I think that's really important. I mean, entrepreneurs are always optimistic, that they have to be optimistic, but you need to be surrounded by some optimism if you're going to get up and carry on each day. And also, obviously, we're interested in the UK growing, but do you also look at what else is happening in other countries, and do you take on board some of the initiatives that are successful there and feed those in?
Absolutely. Well, and again, kind of a couple of responses to that. One is, well, maybe I'll give that one second, actually. But the first, we look everywhere. And I'm sitting at the moment on something for the government called a digital task force, chaired by a brilliant guy called Phil Smith, who used to run Cisco in UK and Ireland. And we've been asked by the government to look at, again, this point that we were just covering. How do we encourage small businesses to truly adopt digital technologies to become more productive, more profitable, etc. In doing that, we have looked at programs. Singapore always comes out. They run a program called Go Digital, which has proven very popular. Singapore also ran something called CTO as a service, where small businesses got access to like a fractional CTO, with that subsidised by the government. New Zealand and Australia do a very good job of digital adoption programs. We're very connected into the OECD, who of course bring together lots of different countries with a full focus on talking about how do we improve small business performance. So from an Enterprise Nation perspective, we're always looking at what's happening around the world, what can we learn, how can we implement. But in a truly British format, one thing that I think that we're doing that is world beating, but we're kind of very shy about saying it, is actually kind of something that we're working on at Enterprise Nation at the moment, which is how do we use AI to deliver very personalised business support? Because of course, every small business is different number of employees operating in a different sector with different levels of cash flow, looking at different opportunities. So we're building out what we're calling a personal business assistant with a vision of saying, can we offer to every small business a level of universal digital and self-led support, but with something that's so clever that it identifies businesses with growth potential and it onboards them into funded programs. Because the big conundrum in whichever country you operate is that small business owners will always say, I don't really have time to look at the support available. I don't know if I'm eligible for grants. By the time I've heard about programs, the application is closed. And this is kind of the thing to solve, is how do you serve to the business? Well, actually knowing what we know about you, this is a program for which you're eligible. The application has been preloaded because we've already got your statistics. So this is the vision that we're working on. And the reason why the UK is in a great place to lead is because we're very strong on what's called open finance. So as a country, we were one of the first to have open banking, which is where people can give permission for third parties to have access to their transaction data. And again, what we're looking at from an Enterprise Nation perspective is, could we be the first country that says, based on transaction data of how small businesses are performing, that is when they are served the right support at the right time. In doing so, boost productivity for the business owner, but also means the public sector can save money, because at the moment you have government launching lots of different support programs in different regions and different localities. And every time a program is launched, it needs marketing, it needs to recruit SMEs, it needs to onboard them. But if you had kind of a single platform that could pre-identify and onboard businesses, you get a single source of truth over what's working. And it also means you can keep your marketing costs low because you have the businesses all in one place. So we do look around the world, absolutely, and try and learn. But I actually think we also should kind of focus on, well, actually, what's the best practice that we're leading on in the UK? And as I say, maybe we could do a bit of a better job about shouting about that.
Yeah, Yeah, I agree. I think we're bad at that, aren't we? We never really blow our own trumpet and use examples of what we've done here to make it better. I mean, that sounds really interesting, because certainly my experience in talking with other entrepreneurs, you're absolutely right that you miss opportunities for funding or for initiatives. They come and go, or you're not in the right place at the right time. And I think that's a really good use of AI to have that assistant looking out for you. So that will be really good. We'll look forward to that. Is there anything else that Enterprise Nation is planning on in the future that you think will have an impact in this sort of area?
Well, I suppose there's a couple of things, certainly things we're really excited about for this year. One is and in fact, in like 10 days, there's a new piece of legislation coming into effect called the Procurement Act. And this has been years in the making. And Adrian, I think you know me of old, that I've always been very passionate about how can we encourage government to buy more from SMEs, because it's one of the best relationships that government wants. And in fact, funnily enough, I was meeting the minister who's responsible for this agenda yesterday in Whitehall. And the reason why I say this is all the tractors were in town. So as I went into the meeting, it was all very quiet. We had a wonderful discussion about the Procurement Act and how government is going to buy more from small businesses. And as I came out, of course, all the farmers and the tractors were taking over Whitehall. And I thought, oh my goodness, can't we kind of share the message, though, that actually government could be a potential customer and kind of turn the relationship around? Because, of course, it's all about tax and not happy things at the moment. So the Procurement Act coming into effect will mean that it's a great time for SMEs to sell to the public sector. I guess our kind of questions are, do small businesses know that they can sell to the public sector? So do they consider the government as a client? Yeah. But actually, the particular lens we're taking on this is many small businesses don't want to sell to government direct. It's too burdensome. It takes too long. You've got to have insurance. You've got to have a track record. But what we do think is viable is small businesses selling to government strategic suppliers in order to win contracts. So we are hopefully launching a programme in the not too distant future, which will really focus in on connecting strategic suppliers, so government's largest suppliers, with SMEs to build the number of SMEs in their own ecosystem. So I think that's a potential great opportunity for this year. And then on a much more, I guess you could say, provincial and local level, the government are also introducing a new piece of, I guess, a political lever that comes as part of an act on the high street. So Labour are very passionate about something called high street rental auctions. And this is where if a shop has been empty for more than 12 months, the community will now be able to take it over. And people are slightly divided on whether this will be good or bad. I think it could be game-changing for small businesses who want to test trade. So if you're an online seller, you're doing really well digitally, but do you want to test physical retail? This may enable you to do that. But also, again, for a long time, we've had the belief that if you can deliver business support on the high street, you can also enable existing retailers who want to but don't have the time to adopt new digital technologies for themselves. I was in a town on Saturday, a small town on the coast, and they had some incredible shops and galleries and kind of art shops. And every store I went into, I said, oh, do you sell online? And I think I probably went into 6 shops. None of them sell online. Yeah. So they do a great job when the customer comes in, but you lose the customer when that customer says, can I find you online? A couple said, oh, I'm on Instagram. And of course, lots of small businesses are using Instagram. But yeah, if we can get that right in terms of how can we take millions of small businesses and enable them to have a high street experience, but critically, how can we help our existing high street champions who get up every day and open their stores? How can we help them kind of get that perfect blend of online and off?
Yeah, that's really interesting as well. That's excellent. Emma, we're out of time already. I could speak for so long with you. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us those insights. Sounds very exciting. And I encourage everybody that's watching to look at Enterprise Nation and see how you can help them. So thank you very much. And thank you for watching this episode of the Virtual Malvern Festival Innovation.